Okay, so I am beyond thrilled to present Darius de Haas, a widely acclaimed actor and singer. Darius was a member of the original Broadway productions of Kiss of the Spider Woman with Chita Rivera, Rent, The Gershwins' Fascinating Rhythm, Marie Christine, Lincoln Center's revival of Carousel, and Shuffle Along. He has also performed in the staged anniversary concerts of Dreamgirls and Hair for the Actors Fund. Not content to just be an Obie Award winning stage actor, Darius is also a highly accomplished singer, having performed in Carnegie Hall with the Cincinnati Pops and in Too Hot to Handle, conducted by Marin Alsop. Other notable concerts include the Lincoln Center American Songbook, Duke Ellington's Sacred Concert at Disney Concert Hall, and the Alvin Ailey Dance Theater's 50th Anniversary Gala. Darius has many more impressive roles and performances I could list, but today we're going to be focusing specifically on his work with Shakespeare and the New York Public Works adaptation of As You Like It, wherein he played Duke Sr. Thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Thank you for having me.
So why don't we just, we'll jump right in. And first of all, I'd love to know, how were you introduced to Shakespeare?
Oh, wow. Well, I was, I guess, unofficially introduced to Shakespeare. I'm originally from Chicago. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. And the very first Shakespeare production I saw was As You Like It. I was little boy, and I saw it at the South Shore Country Club, which had been sort of not used in a long time. And so it kind of was sort of like this big structure, big, grounds sort of place that, they did different cultural activities and different community things. And they happened to present the production of As You Like It. And I forget if which theater company, because I think it was an official theater company, maybe Chicago Shakespeare Rep, I'm not sure. But it was wonderful actors, a lot of who went on to really great careers. This was very early on in their careers. And so that was my introduction to it. And I can't say that I understood everything that I was seeing, but I was highly entertained by by what they were doing. And it was very simple. There wasn't uh, a lot of bells and whistles. It was very much let's Mickey, Judy, let's put on a show. And just a few little costume pieces, a few little props. I remember Touchstone was played by a wonderful actor, very distinguished Chicago actor whose name is escaping me, and I'm so sorry that I can't remember his name. But he had a little kazoo, and so it was lovely. It was really lovely.
That's fascinating. For this course, we've been speaking to a lot of different actors and directors, and most of them were introduced to Shakespeare through like reading it in high school classes and initially hated it. So it's interesting that your first experience was like visual and actually seeing a stage.
Yeah, I did very little reading of Shakespeare in school. Interestingly enough, not until I was in high school, when I had I was, even though it's normally not declared until college, but I was an acting major in high school. We had a pretty extensive theater department, progressive theater department, I guess. And so I was involved in theater pretty intensively from the time I was a freshman in high school. And even though we even still didn't do a lot of Shakespeare, we did some. We did some, and I was not very good. And I remember maybe doing one workshop, and it there was something that wasn't quite gelling for me. I mean, I appreciated the idea of it and the importance of it, but it wasn't quite connecting for me yet. And even going into my professional career, and I started working professionally when I was 17 in Chicago. Um, I remember the very first Shakespeare show that I was called into audition for was The Tempest. And I believe I had just done a show at Northlight Theater in Evanston, Illinois. And I for some reason I'm remembering having to go to Northlight to audition for it, or a place like in that area. And I read for it. And, again, I wasn't very good at all because I was getting it, but it wasn't flowing. I wasn't quite getting the whole thing of iambic pentameter, and really, I just never had that where I really sat with an instructor, working on, and even when I was in college in Chicago, I went to Columbia College. I did the musical version of The Taming of the Shrew, Kiss Me Kate. So we did some delving into Taming the Shrew. And so I got it in a very general sense, but it really, really wasn't until I was much older and I did a production of Twelfth Night at the Westport Country Playhouse, where Mark Lamos, who was the artistic director at Westport Country Playhouse, said, I think you can really do this. And I think you'd be great as Festi. Why don't we try it? And I went and auditioned for him. I was raggedy, I thought. But he said, you know what? We're going to make this work. And I think the best thing that I could have done for myself, and I'm so glad I had the wherewithal to say this. I was like, look, I know nothing. Just please, you know, it, please be very patient with me, and I will work very hard, and I will do this. And the coach that they hired for the show, she was really great for me. She was really great, and she really correlated uh, working on the text with me as a singer, because she said, "You sing, right? And if you think of these phrases and really giving the cadence to the phrases with the specificity of the way you phrase when you sing, you'll start to get the rhythm, and that is what opened the door for me."
Yeah, linking singing with Shakespeare is not something I've considered before, but seems to be like a very useful way of approaching it.
Oh yeah, well, it's all musical. It's all musical. I mean, even to one of the most recent jobs that I did, I worked on the show called Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and I supplied a singing voice for a character. And the actor I worked with, Leroy McLean, is a very highly trained Shakespearean actor. And the way he and I worked together, because he was dubbing my singing voice, um, all of that he notated in the same way that one would notate sort of Shakespeare first. That is how he learned, in terms of the breaths, in terms of the pauses, in terms of the cadence. That was his way into learning how to follow my pattern in my singing. So we did a lot of talking about Shakespeare and just and singing and voice, and I mean, truly, it gives you everything. Writing gives you everything, and it's this is very sort of basic to say probably, but it's timeless, and I think that's why Shakespeare can be done in so many different ways and applied in so many different ways.
That actually transitions beautifully into my next question.
I planned that.
I was I was watching your interview with Susan Booth for The Artist's Approach, and you mentioned that when you were in Jesus Christ Superstar, you had to take what you knew about the show and let it go. And so,
Yes.
with Shakespeare being so timeless, you also need to reinvent it. How do you let that what you know about Shakespeare go for Shakespeare productions, or how do you reinvent those roles?
Well, I find as I get older, the more I can go into anything with little to no expectation in terms of what I think something is going to be, the better it is for me, because it allows me to be free. And it also allows me to really receive what the director or what the composer or what anyone is giving me in to interpret. The wonderful interpreters of Shakespeare, they don't always, or let's say even Judi Dench, who is one of the master interpreters of Shakespeare, but there's something about the way that she goes into saying the verse and that makes you just sort of lean in and makes you hear it fresh. So even though I have no idea what her process is, I would imagine she's like, how do I reinvest? What new thing can I discover as I explore this text? And I think that's always a very good thing to follow, particularly in this day and age as we are sort of in a big, transition coming out of what we've come out of pandemic wise, in terms of race relations, in terms of uh, how we see the world, and how we apply art to those different situations. So yeah, yeah, in terms of the Jesus Christ Superstar thing, yeah, because I was a big Christ Superstar fan, and I knew that show inside out, but it was a re-investigating of that show from a very particular point of view, and it opened me up in a way that I didn't even expect, and those are the best experiences for me.
Yeah, well, the production of As You Like It that you were in for the New York Public Works, that also came at a very particular moment in uh, the zeitgeist. Um, so, can you speak a little bit to your experience with that production and the adaptation specifically of being a
Yes.
musical? Um, and what was it like working with a community of actors that weren't necessarily all professionally trained actors?
It was wonderful. It was wonderful on every point. And again, I had to go into it being very open and not having any expectations. And the way public works, which was founded by uh, Lear de Bessonet, and then has been carried on beautifully by Laurie Woolery, who directed As You Like It. Um, the way that works, it really puts the community front uh, foremost. Uh, and when you go into it with that train of thought, then I think that will allow you to have the best experience, because you really do have to interact. There was no separating of, okay, well, these are the equity actors, and these are the community actors, and these are the professionals, and there was none of that. And the way they cast those, at least the way they cast As You Like It, because I had done a workshop of it. We'd done a reading of it where it was, I think it was primarily all uh, equity actors at the Public Theater. Just so Shayna Taub, who wrote this adaptation, so she could hear it immediately. Concurrently, Laurie was working with the community and prepping them for the show, but doing whatever their process is with the different community groups, because I think it's like 6 or 7 different community groups, and taking them through exercises, taking them through work with text, working with them how to project and really make sure and really working on how to connect what the text is to the situation, so it doesn't seem like it's this sort of far away thing. So while they were doing that, we were doing, I think it was like a week-long workshop. And um, I knew that above anything else, I said, I really want to do this production. I really want, because for some reason, I just I felt I get this on some level. I really get this, and I really feel it's very rare when, as an actor, when you can go in and you feel something is so right for you from a character, age, vocal, physical, all those things. Because, Duke Sr. probably is the oldest character that I portrayed on stage, I think. And it was a relief. I was, oh my God, I feel I can have the beginnings of the gravitas to sort of pull this off. And then the way that they used Duke Sr., uh, it was almost like I had to, it almost felt like, well, did I in another life nudge Shayna Taub and say, you could write this role for me. This would be really, really, it really just, I really was able to fall into it. And it also, like Jesus Christ Superstar, the alliance with Susan, it was a huge community. The parallels between those two productions are really quite interesting because it was a huge community group. I was in a role where I was having to lead the community group and really engage and really take time with people and really connect with them. And that really was part, learning the Shakespeare, and learning, absolutely. Um, but also it was really about connecting with community, which, not only for the public works, but I think for the idea of the public theater, um, that is the idea of really bringing theater to the public, not just having the public observe and watch and be entertained, but also saying, look, but this is also for you. It was interesting because that was in 2017. Um, when uh the current, that particular White House administration was deporting all the immigrants, and all the young and putting up stop to DACA and all of that. So it was very, very it was very fueled with that sense of look at what's happening in this world, and and what are we saying about ourselves as a society in this time, and why are we still why are we still having to go through these things of discrimination and such great polarization, and what brings us back around to that. So that production really, I think, even in a way that we didn't even expect. I don't know that the public theater, Lori, Shayna, I don't know that they fully expected it to be as prescient as it was. So it was quite extraordinary.
What struck me about all of these clips of you was that the joy that, with which you speak about the public theater, and the joy with which you perform Shakespeare. Um, it was really remarkable watching all of those clips and seeing the community come together. Personally, I grew up in New York City, and my first memories and most of my memories of Shakespeare productions have been sitting online for tickets at the New York Public Theater,
Huh?
and seeing productions that didn't feel so removed from me.
Mm.
And so I would love if you could talk more about what is it about acting, perhaps Shakespeare more specifically, or acting in general, that brings you joy, and how do you convey that to your audience?
Well, for me personally, it is a joy for me to be able to do what I always dreamed of doing. Um, I still find great joy as an actor and as a singer. And particularly at this time in my life where I'm really trying to be even more specific about the things that I do and that I pursue and how I create and how I give my most authentic self back to the world. Um, that is really a blessing for me. I'm very, very fortunate to have, in these 35, 36 years that I've been a professional uh, actor and singer, been able to do what I do. With Public Works, I mean, it was like, that was a cast of what, 100 people?
More than
I mean, and there are times when you come in because I was concurrently working on another production during the early stages of rehearsal for As You Like It. So I would come to rehearsal tired. I was, very tired and, doing the double duty and whatnot. And, you come into rehearsal and everyone is so lovely and, and greeting you and everything. but it's a lot of people. And so you you also had to kind of check yourself and kind of go, okay, where am I at, and how can I bring my best self
Mhm.
even when I'm not feeling my best self. And I mean, and that's also the case for, performing live theater, doing 8 shows a week is is no joke. You have to live like a monk.
Yeah.
Uh so but there's, I think there's such great honor in being an actor. My other thing really as of late, because of my advocacy as well, in working with the organization specifically that I work with, Black Theater United, comprised of all these wonderful artists and stage managers and technicians and whatnot, trying to really make a industry expand in a way that is more inclusive, is more awake, is more kind, is more aware, is more accountable, and so it's a pretty heavy, time, it's a pretty heavy load.
How do you balance that responsibility as an artist and all of your work with the Black Theater United and just doing all of this very important but at times difficult work with just maintaining yourself and maintaining your joy? And how do you balance that? Is there a way, just a good tip?
No, I don't know that there really is a balance. Yes, we do try to find balance in terms of, just our personal lives and what we need to do to maintain ourselves, and and maintain our homes, maintain our bodies, and be with our families and taking care of everything. And and then on top of that, when you are doing advocacy work and being an artist, it's a lot. And I don't mind saying, even to my embarrassment, that I don't know that I'm always the greatest example of how one balances because sometimes I'm just exhausted or stressed out. I think one has to cultivate as best as they can, um, a sense of self-care, because I do believe if you can't if you can't sort of nurture yourself and nurture your body and be, then you're not going to be any good to anyone else.
Mhm.
You know, um, you can run yourself into the ground, and I mean, and different people's abilities vary. There's some people who can juggle so many different things and they're tireless about it. I When I was a little younger, I felt I had a better ability to juggle things, and I juggle a lot of things now. What I've had to sort of look at in my own personal life is how well I organize things. Is that I have to organize my 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 schedules, or else I just wouldn't be able to do everything that I'm doing. And also being able to ask for help, which is a
Mhm.
big thing for me, because you try to be Superman and whatnot, and what I'm also discovering, I've been talking about community and everything, also know when to ask for help, and when there are, I mean, that's how BTU came, people were saying, look, I'm upset about the this seemingly, well, it wasn't even seemingly, this very non-response thing from our theater community to the murder of George Floyd. And this is a seminal moment, again, among the many seminal moments that we've had through our history, where we're at this again going, why? does this continue to happen? Why are we still struggling with this? And so my colleagues, reached out to their different friends, and I was very honored and grateful to be one of those friends that they reached out to. Um, and so I have to, and I continue to try to work on how best I can bring the best of who I am to this work.
Thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Oh,
This is such a valuable addition to this project that we're working on, the Black Shakespearean database, and I'm really looking forward to sharing this interview with
oh gosh,
academics and other theater makers.